Hey everyone, Kenzie here with Wideners. One of the most fun action sports is the United States Practical Shooting Association competition, or as it's more commonly called, USPSA. USPSA promotes safe and fun participation in practical shooting sports. It is one of the largest practical shooting organizations in the U.S., with over 30,000 active members spread out across more than 400 clubs. Before signing up to attend a local or a larger match, ask the shooting range where the match will be held if a membership to USPSA or the range is required to compete. Most likely you won't have to sign up for a range membership. For most local matches, especially as a first-time shooter, you don't always have to be a member or have an ID number. However, for sanctioned matches, which are state-level matches and others that are level 2 or higher, you will need to be an official USPSA member with a member number to participate. Remember, no matter what shooting competition you decide to compete in, it is your responsibility to read the rule book before participating. You can find the complete USPSA rulebook on their website at uspsa.org. Shooting a USPSA competition. A standard USPSA match is made up of multiple stages. USPSA stages are centered around accuracy and speed. You can have low round count stages focused strictly on fundamentals, such as strong hand-only shooting or requiring mandatory reloads. You will also see high round count stages, technical and designed to force movement, eye speed, accuracy, and reloading under pressure. The round count is important to know as some divisions only allow for 8 or 10 rounds per magazine, or 6 rounds in a cylinder for revolver, versus other divisions that allow 170 millimeter magazines that typically hold anywhere from 26 to 30 rounds. Let's briefly talk about divisions in USPSA. USPSA divisions are first dictated by the type of gun you want to compete with. This is pistol, revolver, and even pistol caliber carbines. Divisions such as production and carry optics have a specific approved gun list on the USPSA website that tell you what guns are legal to use in these divisions. Divisions are also separated by iron sights, burst optic sights, magazine limit lengths, and more. There are also 2 scoring categories that some divisions have based on ammunition, and this is called power factor. And there is minor and major power factor minimum requirements in USPSA. Competitors are grouped into these divisions to ensure that each participant can compete against their peers with similar guns, similar optics, and equipment, making an even playing field. Let's talk about major versus minor power factor. Understanding power factor scoring is really important because it applies to how the USPSA divisions are scored. Rounds with a power factor score of 165 or higher are considered major, where rounds with a power factor score lower than 165 are considered minor. Be aware that a power factor of 125 is the very bar minimum that can be used for competition. So how is power factor determined? A basic formula is used to determine power factor in USPSA scoring based on the power of the round. So it works by taking your bullet's muzzle velocity and multiplying it by the grain weight of the bullet. That number is then rounded up to the closest whole number and divided by 1,000, resulting in that 3-digit power factor number. Scoring a USPSA match. USPSA cardboard targets have 3 scoring zones: A zone, C zone, and D zone. There's also steel targets, which are scored as 5 points for both major and minor power factor. As I mentioned, major and minor power factors play a significant role in scoring during USPSA matches. Competing with a major power factor gun gives you the opportunity to score more points in the C and D zones than shooting minor power factor. So each paper target is worth a potential of 10 points, which means each stage is worth a set number of maximum points once you combine all the target values. So major power factor scores are as follows. A zone is 5 points, C zone is 4 points, and the D zone is 2 points. Minor power factor scores is as follows. A zone is still the 5 points, but the C zone goes down to 3 points and the D zone goes down to 1 point. As mentioned, USPSA competitions use a mix of steel and paper targets. In USPSA, you shoot paper twice and steel must fall to score. Some stages may dictate that you have to shoot paper 3 times, but for general rules, paper is typically scored with 2 shots per target. The way USPSA matches are scored are by a hit factor, points per second. Your hit factor is determined by taking the number of points you have, subtracting your penalties, and dividing that number by the time it took to complete the stage.
Okay.
Choosing a USPSA division. USPSA divisions are separated by the types of guns allowed in each division and the approved modifications to those guns. Other deciding factors for divisions include magazine capacity, gun size and weight, and the ability to run optics. Choosing a USPSA division is an exciting part of getting in on the action. Depending on your setup, you might find that one gun will allow you to compete in multiple divisions with a few modifications. A holster is required to compete in USPSA shooting sports, other than, of course, the PCC division. Providing the division does not restrict the type or physical location of the holster, inside the waistband or concealment holsters are legal, as long as the firearms can stay safely drawn and replaced, and so doing so doesn't break any safety rules. There are essentially two types of holsters you see in USPSA. Your typical Kydex holster and race-style holsters, where the pistol's trigger guard is covered, but nothing else. Let's talk about my least favorite division, production. The production division is limited to off-the-shelf production guns with limited modifications. Production division actually recently moved from a 10 round per magazine limit to 15 rounds. Maybe I'll like it a little bit more, but I hate reloading. So the maximum number of shots that can be set for any one stage in USPSA is 32 rounds. So a minimum of 3 magazines per production division is a good idea to have. So here are the division requirements. Minor power factor. The magazine must fit inside the measurement box when inserted. Ammo capacity is 15 rounds. The max gun weight with empty magazine inserted is 59 ounces. Now, firearm requirements. There is a list, but you have double action or single action, and safe action striker-fired handguns. Limited division. This is actually where I started. Limited division is generally the division that most first-time competitors get started in. If your handgun has iron sights on it, there's a good chance it fulfills the requirements needed for competing in this division. Like I said, some stages require those 32 shots, so magazine capacities are not limited, but many competitors get by with carrying just 2 full-size magazines. Let's talk about the division requirements. What I don't love about limited is it is major and minor power factor scored, unlike my favorite, limited optics, which we'll talk about is just minor. But the magazine length in this division is 140 millimeters for double stack guns and 170 millimeters in the single stack guns. And the ammo capacity, as many as you can fill up into those magazines. Okay, the next division we'll talk about is limited 10 division. And this is kind of what it sounds like. The limited division is the same gun as the limited division, but with limited 10, you are limited to 10 round magazine limits. Division requirements, same as before, you have major and minor power factor. Magazine lengths, 140 millimeter for the double stack guns and 170 millimeter for the single stack guns. Ammo capacity, 10. It's spelled out in the title. Open division. So the open division has less equipment restrictions than any other division out there. Modified race guns, custom holsters, high capacity magazines, and frame mounted red dot sights are common in this division. Speed and power factor play a large role in achieving success in open division. Pretty much all of the top level shooters in this division are shooting major power factor. So division requirements. Like I said, you've got major and minor in this division. You're gonna wanna shoot major. The maximum length magazine is your 170 millimeters. So you're going with the big magazine capacity, probably up to about 30 rounds, which is awesome to start with. And then frame mounted optics are permitted. You can still shoot your slide mounted dots if you want, but a frame mounted is going to be pretty much more advantageous for the competitor as it just stays in place as the gun recoils. In this division, you'll also see single port compensators, sometimes triple port compensators. Because you're shooting that hotter ammo at the 165 limit there, you are going to want to have a compensator to cut down on felt recoil. Carry optics division. Actually, just recently was the Carry Optics Nationals, and it was the first Nationals that was just a single gun, and it was the most well-attended match actually of the entire year. So the Carry Optics division is limited to off-the-shelf production guns with slide-mounted red dot optics. Limited modifications are allowed on the gun, including my least favorite, you can't have magazine wells. So similar to the limited divisions, magazine capacities are not limited, so many competitors carry full-size magazines to complete the stages. Division requirements, and I love this, minor power factor only. And the maximum magazine length is 140 millimeters. Now, for the optical and electronic sights, they are required And they must be attached directly to the slide between the rear of the slide and the ejection port. They cannot be mounted to the frame in any way. Max gun weight is 59 ounces with the optic and empty magazine inserted. The firearm requirements in carry optics are only double action, single action, and safe action striker fired handguns. They must be on that same approved list that you saw with production. Limited Optics Division, my favorite. Unlike Limited and Limited 10 divisions, this division was voted to be minor power factor only to make it more equitable for scoring. My favorite part about this division. Now, this division also requires the use of an optic and allows for higher capacity magazines, just as a Limited division does. Let's talk division requirements. Minor power factor only. Maximum magazine length is 140 millimeter for double stack guns and 170 millimeter for single stack guns. No ammo capacity, so fill up those mags. And similar to carry optics, the optical and electronic sights are required and they must be attached directly to the slide between the rear of the slide and the ejection port and cannot be mounted to the frame in any way. Single stack division. The single stack division is for 1911 production type pistols. This must be available to the general public and have their basis in the original 1911 service pistol as designed by John M. Browning. Pistols made from components that duplicate the factory originals are also acceptable. Frames must be metal. Modular frames in the 1911 style, which use traditional single-stack 1911 magazines, are also allowed. Guns for this division must fit into a box with no specific dimensions and weigh no more than 45 ounces with an empty magazine inserted. Division requirements. Major and minor power factor. The magazine must fit inside the measurement box when inserted. For major power factor, 8 rounds is the ammo capacity. For minor power factor, 10 rounds is the ammo capacity. The max gun weight with the empty mag inserted is 45 ounces. And the only firearm requirement is it's got to be a 1911 production pistol. Revolver Division. The Revolver Division, you guessed it, is for revolvers only. Participants may choose between revolvers which hold 6 rounds for major power factor or revolvers which hold 8 rounds for minor power factor. The use of moon clips and belt hangers are permitted for faster reloads. Division requirements. Just as I mentioned, major and minor power factor, 6 rounds for major and 8 rounds for minor. And obviously, once again, firearm requirements is revolver only. I recommend the Jerry Mikulik Smith & Wesson model. All right, let's go into the pistol caliber carbine division. So obviously this division is going to require the use of a pistol caliber carbine rifle for participation. And obviously, maybe no holsters are required here. There are a few equipment restrictions in this division as well. Red dot optics are permitted, as well as high capacity magazines and compensators. Division requirements. Minor power factor only. And just to show you, there is no ammo capacity. So I'm shooting 56 rounds in one magazine. That's my starter, guys. So I don't like to reload in this division, and with 32 round stages as the max, you probably won't have to. Okay, we've all been there. Don't get DQ'd. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but when. Trust me. The only thing that matters when competing in USPSA or any shooting sport is shooting safely with a gun that you can manipulate, you can control, clear malfunctions, and move with. If you aren't comfortable with your firearm of choice, it can be dangerous for you to shoot with. If you're simply nervous because you've never competed before, that's normal and that's okay. Spend time dry firing first or practicing moving and shooting at your local range before putting yourself under the pressure of a timer. So let's talk about this 180 rule. Stages will be designed with a rear fault line that designates your 180 degrees of how far left or how far right you can point your gun safely without getting disqualified. Essentially, if you shoot backwards at a target, you've probably moved too far past it, and then you end up pointing your gun at 200 degrees in one direction, and this is not safe, you will be disqualified. Typically, shooters who move from pistol to a pistol caliber carbine have a difficult time learning the safest way to move around barricades, around corners, or even retreat with a carbine, where it's a lot easier with a pistol. Make sure to always keep your muzzle pointed within this 180 degrees. This also counts for up and down, left and right, of course. When you move from one position to the next, your trigger finger should come out of the trigger guard and be visibly clear to the range officers that your finger isn't on the trigger, isn't holding down the trigger, and isn't in the trigger guard in any way. If you are caught infringing upon this rule, you will be disqualified. Equipment overview. USPSA shooting is very much a prepared sport of having a competition belt, at least 2 to 5 magazines on your belt depending on your division, a good competition holster, and other gear. USPSA uses pistols or a pistol caliber carbine depending on the division that you choose. I'll discuss some of the equipment and gear I bring to matches in the next section. Handgun options. For USPSA, I would recommend starting out with a gun that you are comfortable with shooting accurately and quickly. There are many different divisions to consider, such as carry optics, single stack, limited, and more. However, before getting into all of that, find a gun that's easy to find magazines, ammo, and a holster for. Here's a short list of handguns I recommend to get started. Glock 17, 19, or 34. All of these are great for limited or limited optic divisions. The Canik SFX or the SFX Rival or the new Rival S. Smith & Wesson M&P full size, probably one of the easiest guns to find holsters for, and you can make upgrades such as the trigger for. Walther PDP or the Q5 pistols. Walther's been innovating many of the new guns with their PDP match pistol, their steel frames, so there's a ton of options there. And in terms of double stack 1911s, you've got your Nighthawk BDS-9 that I shoot, but more affordable gun these days is the Springfield Prodigy in 5-inch, or you could do the 4.25 inch. You could also build your own if you want, but think about your division that you want to compete in, maybe what you have at home, and get started with what you have now and then upgrade later. Let me give you my pistol caliber carbine options that I like. There are a few to choose from depending on your budget, so I recommend looking at the Da Vinci Machining DG9. The competition ready PCC is what would be the most effective for competition, but you can get ready with the base model as well. The Terran Tactical Innovations TR9 is awesome. You have some very good grip texture on the handguard. You've got your competition trigger. This is pretty much customizable to you and you can build it out to what you want it to be. JP Rifles also has kind of like a build sheet you would build out for their PCCs, but you can also just kind of find one used on the market or just run what you want there. If you can find a used Brecky Custom PCC, those run great. I have one, and it was probably one of the last models ever made, but there's a ton out there in the used sections if you want to look for that on different websites. And then your budget-friendly one is probably going to be Palmetto State Armory. Magazines. Now, depending on the division you shoot in USPSA, you might have only 15 rounds per magazine, or, we're going to revolver 6 to 8, but that's cylinders. But you can also load up your magazines to the top in divisions that just give you a 170 millimeter or 140 millimeter in terms of length of the magazine. So for any gun that I have, I do recommend that you also get 5 magazines minimum per competition gun. The reason for that is if a magazine doesn't run, you kind of have backups, and then 5 is really kind of the bare minimum, especially for production division or carry optics divisions. But it's easy to find magazines for a lot of these guns that I mentioned earlier, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. For USPSA competition belts, you want to look for a belt that is thick, but also goes through your belt loops, sturdy enough to hold 3 to 5 loaded magazines on one side, and a competition holster and loaded firearm on the other. I recommend getting started with a Safariland ELS belt or a Velcro System high-speed belt. You can also draw from inside the waistband, so belts such as Next Belt, Core Systems belt, or the Hunter Constantine carry belt are also good options. Just make sure when you put all of your gear on that nothing is sagging on one side or the other. Let's talk about gear essentials, the things that you need to bring to the range no matter what. This seems like a duh, but for eyes and ears, I highly recommend investing in a quality pair of eyewear and hearing protection, both specifically designed for shooting. This means ANSI rated lenses and high decibel rated hearing protection. The top brand in eyewear in competition sports these days are Hunter's HD Gold, followed by Oakley Standard Issue, Warbird Pro, and Wiley X, just to name a few. Quality hearing protection of muffs and in-ear protection are made by brands such as Walkers, Savior Equipment, Howard Light, IsoTunes, and more. Okay, we're going to talk about bags, and there's 2 different bags that you would need, one more specific for pistol, and if you shoot pistol caliber carbine, this is going to look completely different. Typically for major matches, I like to bring a primary and a backup PCC. So for these bags, they need to be long, obviously, to fit your rifle in, but make sure that if you carry 2, that they're pointed in the same direction. So when you're going to the match for USPSA, there are rules about where you can unbag your PCC at. Typically, that's going to be against a berm. And obviously, when you pull the gun out, you don't want it to be flagged in the wrong direction. Always have that chamber flag in there as well. So I can't recommend Savior Equipment enough. They make some really great bags that have different pockets and zippers to keep your tools in, your ammo in. If you have cleaning kit, what have you, that can all go in in there. So check out Save Your Equipment, especially for the PCC division. Now for pistols, you could do a couple different things. Again, Save Your Equipment is just what I use. They have a really great backpack that has different side compartments. They actually already have pistol sleeves, which is going to be very important for putting on your gun at a safe table. They need to be bagged or cased, so that's going to be a requirement. They also have a pistol range bag that is more of a two-handled thing, a little bit wider, and then also in there you're going to have your pistol sleeves. You could put your ammo in there, cleaning kit, and all of that. So pick a bag that works and specific for whatever division you're going to shoot. You definitely need to pack a cleaning kit. Murphy's Law occurs more often than we want it to. It is a great idea to keep a small cleaning kit in your range bag, equipped with any takedown tools that you might need, a bore snake, and definitely gun oil at a minimum. In addition to your cleaning kit, you definitely need some tools. Essential tools that you might not think of but are a good idea to have include the Real Avid tools, such as their simple pistol gun tool to tighten down any optic or grip screws. You will also need a punch kit. This is for removing your magazine base plates, and you need a magazine brush to clean out any clogged magazines. Spare parts. You should always have handy spare fiber optic if you run iron sights, or extra batteries if you run any sort of red dot optic. Small parts such as extractors, spare springs, and other items like this can also occasionally help you because things go wrong when you least expect it. We already talked about the PCC, but very important to it is a chamber flag. You will have to have a chamber flag and either transport the gun in a gun cart or in a locked or zipped case. Okay guys, let's talk water and food. You have to be responsible for your health throughout any weather. Always pack protein snacks, water, hydration packets, and especially, please, Hoppy's lead-off wipes. Every time you go to ingest lead into your body is probably when you're eating food or snacks or even drinking from a water bottle. Now, most major matches are going to supply water, but make sure you bring your own too. Ammo cost is something you'll need to consider. I chose 9mm because it's cheap and easy to find. I shoot training ammo for practicing at the range and quality heavier grain bullets for competition. The most important thing to do once you have figured out the firearm and caliber is to stick with it. Many people also reload their own ammunition to be closer to the minimum power factor, whether they're competing in major or minor power factor. This gives them a leg up on felt recoil. A local match can run anywhere from 4 to 8 stages, so I'd at least bring 200 rounds of ammo to a local match, if not 250. Major matches that are level 2 usually are 10 to 12 stages, and for those, I recommend bringing 350 rounds on the low end, 450 to be safe. For a national level, I recommend bringing at least 800 rounds. This accounts for using the chronograph, sighting in again if needed, any potential reshoots, and plenty of extra rounds for makeup shots. Here's a short list of 9mm ammo I recommend to get started. Federal Gold Medal Action Pistol, 147 grain. Federal Syntech Action Pistol, 150 grain. Blazer Brass, 124 grain. Fiocchi Pistol Shooting Dynamics, 124 grain. And Supervel, 124 grain as well. Start by searching practicescore.com for USPSA competitions, or you can visit USPSA.org website and search for upcoming matches. You don't have to be a USPSA member to shoot most local level 1 matches, but signing up as a member has its perks. Members receive classification status and an ID number to track their performance. Members can participate in qualifying level 2 and level 3 matches, and of course, be ranked or scored nationwide. The best way to start participating in USPSA is to attend a match in person. I can guarantee that you will have a lot of fun and meet a lot of new friends. Go be a spectator, talk to the range master, ask as many questions as you can. If people offer to show you their gear or even let you use their gun or try it out, always accept, always say yes. The best way to learn what works best for you is to try as many options as possible before purchasing. Be sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and check out Widener and look at our blog to see the full gear and gun breakdown for USPSA, because this is a lot of information. We've got all of it linked for you there. And don't forget to check out Widener's for all your ammo needs.